Welcome back to Property Lunch with Giuseppe. Now today is a different setting, and today I have a friend with me and a mentee of the Stepping Bricks Academy. I have Darren Price. Hello Darren.
Hello Giuseppe.
How are you?
I'm very well.
So you came up from England to Scotland.
I did. I flew up from Gatwick, yes, this morning.
Good.
Super early flight.
So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk a little bit about your background and show how it's possible to invest in property, and we're going to tell the brutal truth, let's say, about property. We know it's not all perfect and sometimes there are problems, but the good thing is that you now know how to solve these problems. So it's all about attitude.
So my name is Darren. You already know this. I suppose my day job is software development, which I've been doing for about 30 years, and I've been a property investor for around about 20, maybe just under 20 years, since 2006. So whatever that is, 16 years perhaps.
How did you start from 0 to 1? What was your step there?
I was in rented accommodation, and the house at the end of the road, which was about 3 doors down, came up for sale, and I could afford it, so I just thought I'm going to move in. So that was my motivation. I was actually going to buy it to move in myself and renovate it while I was there, and then move on from there. So that's why I bought it. So that's I didn't end up doing that though. I ended up buying it, staying in the rented place, and spending probably 25% of the purchase price doing it up, which was astonishing to me now, but a considerable amount of money in 2006, let me tell you. Yes, and that's why actually the second one was a new build, because I didn't fancy doing that again because it had become so expensive. But so with the first one I just rented it, and so what happened was the rental income that I was getting actually offset the rent that I was paying. So and that's how it worked out. So it was I recognised straight away it was lucrative, and actually the new build, the second one, cost me no money at all. So ordinarily I'd say never buy a new build, right? It's just the comps and for all the different techniques that your education provides. But I got into that property with a mortgage that was 100%.
Oh, it's brilliant.
And because it was a new build, they paid whatever the stamp duty was, and they paid the legal fees to do it.
So the strategy we're talking about is buying, then hold for long term, rent it in the meantime, put as little as possible at the beginning, and then you gain from rental income and capital appreciation. Yeah,
and then refinance periodically, which is how. So for the rest, I'm up to 8 properties that I own. 5 of those are with my sister.
Yeah.
And the way that we sort of started that strain was that we got a property that was inherited to us early, I think, gifted to us, and then we just refinanced it and bought 4 more. So there's a really good portfolio in the round there, and I also follow that up with rent-to-rent accommodation as well.
That's a good point, because some people think they have to sell the property in order to get the cash to invest in rental properties. But if you refinance... Never understood that. Correct. So if you refinance, you might not be able to get the full amount of money that you would if you sell, but you still get cash.
But you only need the deposit money.
Correct.
Right? You don't need to refinance one property to buy another property outright.
Yeah.
You just need the deposit, which is typically 25%.
25% for buy-to-let, exactly.
Which, it's quite achievable.
Or, in your case, if you're doing rent-to-rent, you don't need even that 25%.
Yeah, rent-to-rent. I've done a few rent-to-rents since I started my property education about 6 years ago. I have tried each of the strategies.
Yeah.
Which includes rent-to-rent, rent to serviced accommodation.
Yes.
That was a 5-bed HMO, which there was a group of us that ran for a year. I would say we overpaid. There was a real lesson there. We overpaid for the property in the first place. So that it did make money, but...
So was it a service accommodation or HMO?
It was an HMO that we took on as rent-to-rent, but turned it into serviced accommodation.
Okay.
It was net positive at the end of the experience, but not one I'd repeat, and certainly because there were 4 people involved in it, there wasn't a lot left really to go around. But I've also done more recently rent to rent with social housing, which is my favourite strategy. I think that's fair to say. The way it worked is that there were 2 HMOs in Watford. One was a 5-bed and one was a 4-bed. So what we'd agreed with the landlord is that we would pay £2,000 for each. So there was a £4,000 a month outlay. And then the social housing company had a lease on the property. So my lease with the landlord was mirrored with the lease to the social housing provider. And the social housing provider paid £5,070 a month. Okay. So there was £1,070 margin. But the beauty of that strategy, and why I love social housing, especially when it's with a provider, a social housing provider, they take the lease out of the property and then they maintain it themselves. So you've got, certainly with an HMO anyway, you've got guaranteed full occupancy. Mm-hmm. You've got all of the maintenance done for you.
So full repairing and insurance.
Full repairing and insuring, and it's often a 7-year lease. So it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant strategy. Now, it can go wrong as well, I have to say. Because this is about gloves off, right? This is
let's
real.
talk
We're
about
talking real. One of those properties, because of the particular type of tenant that we had, or particular needs group, it actually was subject to an arson attack. So fortunately, nobody was hurt. Right, mm-hmm. That's all that was important. Yeah. But what I would say, when you're doing rent to rent, people sometimes just do it and don't register with the PRS, and they don't get insurance, public liability and professional indemnity insurance. They don't make sure that the owner of the property has spoken to their finance company about the tenant type, not have the right insurance in place. And I have to say, we ticked every box on this. Mm-hmm. So even though, right up front we had everything right, and then it went up in flames, and we were, gutted for the property, but we didn't have to worry because we'd done everything. We'd even registered with the environmental health, and everything had been done.
Again, that's because you were educated. Because
I was trained. I knew what I didn't know.
Okay. So if I understood well, you were paying £2,000 per property to the landlord. Yeah. 2 properties, so £4,000 was your outgoing. Yeah. And you rent it to your social housing provider for £5,070. Yeah. That gave you £1,000 profit without doing anything.
And £70.
And £70. Don't forget the £70.
A month. And the beauty with that, it cost absolutely nothing.
Okay, Darren, thank you very much for this interview. This has been very insightful. There is a lot of questions still unanswered, unfortunately, but we have a limited amount of time. We're going to be there on the comments to reply on the comments we're going to receive. So this is a property lunch with Giuseppe. I had Darren Price with me today. If you like this episode, click like, subscribe, and comment below, because me and Darren are going to reply to every single comment. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.